Good morning, students. This will be the last portion of Unit 5, Physical Basis of Mental Life. As we have in our previous classes, we have already discussed about the functions of nervous systems, such as central nervous systems and peripheral nervous systems, how the sense organs receive information or gather information, pass it to the central nervous systems, and interpret it, and also like retransmit it to for effectors or for reflex actions. So today we will be discussing on 3 points, that is sensation, perception, and conceptions. How these three are formed or how these three are developed. So if you have a textbook, you can turn the page number. You can turn the page number 62 onward. Sensation, first point. Any experience that takes place through sense organ is called sensation. Sensation is also called as the gateway of knowledge, because all our knowledge is based upon the functioning of sense organs. As we have already seen, the receptors, that is the 5 sense organs, on receiving the stimulation, send it to the brain, and the brain acceptance is called sensation. Thus, sensation is defined as an act of sense organ which, when stimulated, send nerve current to the sensory center of the brain, and the first response of the brain is also called sensation. Thus, sensation can be said that the first steps in the process of acquiring knowledge from the outside world. In psychology, sensation is the detection by the body of an external or internal stimuli through the senses. It is the step prior to perception, taking place before the brain is able to interpret with the stimulus that has just been detected. A general feeling caused by something that happened to us, especially the feeling that you cannot describe exactly. You feel the sensation of touch, but you cannot describe exactly what object touched you. Sensation is a mental process, such as seeing, hearing, and smelling, resulting from the immediate external stimulation of a sense organ, often as distinguished from a conscious awareness of the sensory process. So, in short, sensation is the process that allows our brain to take in information via our 5 senses, such as vision, hearing, taste, smell, and touch, which can then be experienced and interpreted by the brain. According to Matur, the impression received through the sense organs are called sensations. Again, Douglas and Holland define that sensations are the first thing in the way of consciousness. Hoffman defined that sensation is the process of receiving, translating, and transmitting information to the brain from the external and internal environment. Types of sensations. You will see in the table, like types of sensation: visual sensation, auditory sensation, olfactory sensation, tactile sensation, and taste sensation. So sense organs, visual is eye. Like, see, 83% of we got a sensation through sight, that is eye. Whenever like we saw an object, especially in the daytime, like we see the things around us and we got a sensation of sight. Auditory sensation, that is ear, hearing, 11%, and olfactory sensation through the nose, we got 3.5%. And tactile sensation, that is skin, we 1.5% of sensation we received sensation through skin or touch. Test sensation like 1.0%. That's through tongue test. Elements of sensation. The main elements of sensation are given below. First is quality. The nature of each sensation is different from another. Every type of sensation has got its own special quality or characteristic. This quality of sensation helps us to distinguish one from another. For example, green sensation of the eyes, cold sensation of the skin. Second, the intensity. Second element of sensation is intensity. Sensation differs in respect of its intensity. If two sounds are graded at once, one will be more intense than the other. It differs in the same type of sense or among the different types of sensations. Third element of sensation is the extensity. Extensity refers to the extension in space. Each sensation has its own extensity. The vaster the stimulus, the more extensive the sensation. The extensity is not true of all the types of sensation, but restricted to certain. The fourth main elements of sensation is the duration. Every sensation has its own duration or lasts for a certain times. The auditory sensation of an aeroplane, for example, sound is more extensive than the sound of the calling bell. The last main element of sensation is the clarity. Every sensation has got clarity. The sensation which lasts for a longer period becomes clearer than the sensation that lasts for a shorter period. Second is the perception. So what is perception? Perception is defined as a process by which an individuals select, organized, and interpret stimuli into a meaningful, coherent picture of the world. It is a cognitive process by which people attend to incoming stimuli, organize and interpret such stimuli into a behavior. Perception takes place after the sensation. Again, perception is defined as the, in other words, perception includes the five senses that is touch, sight, sound, smell, and taste. It also includes what is known as the proprioception, a set of senses involving the ability to detect changes in the body positions and movement. It also involved the cognitive process required to process information, such as recognizing the face of friends or detecting a familiar scent. Learned more about how we go from detecting stimuli into the environment to actual taking actions based on that information. Perception involved both bottom-up and top-down processing. Bottom-up processing refers to the fact that perceptions are built from sensory input. On the other hand, how we interpret those sensations is influenced by our available knowledge, our experiences, and our thoughts. This is called top-down processing. For example, like if you hear a small or faint sound or less sound of someone is crying, some baby is crying, and if you could not able to recognize the sound of the baby or sound, that is called sensation. But if you But if you are able to get some more details about, like, see, oh, my neighbor baby is crying. That means like you already identified the sound, that baby sound. That means it has already become a perception to you. Okay, every day, different stimuli around us will be stimulating our sense organs. In turn, the brain interpret these sensations. This process of interpretation of stimuli is known as the perception. Factor affecting perceptions. There are different individuals in perceptual abilities. Two people may perceive the same stimulus differently. Just see the example about this picture. The two persons standing in different directions, in different positions. They place one number that is either 6 or 9. The first person view from a different angle and he saw 6. That means like his perception is that there is a number 6. But the second person, he view from the different angle, he stand in the different positions, and he said like that is 9. That means two people may perceive the same stimulus differently. Factor affecting perceptions of people's. First is the perceptual learning. Based on past experience or any special training we get, every one of us learn to emphasize some sensory inputs and to ignore others. For example, a person who has a training in some occupation like artistry or other skills job can perform better than untrained people. Second is mental set. Mental set refers to preparedness or readiness to receive some sensory input. Such expectancy keeps the individuals prepared with good attention and concentration. For example, if your teacher said that this is a very important question or this is a very important portion for your final exam or for your coming exams. So that the students will listen to the students will give the more the more attentions and more concentrations, and they perceived more clearly than they perceived more clearly. Second is the motives and needs. Our motives and needs will define and influence our perceptions. For example, a hungry person is motivated to recognize only the food items among other articles. His attention cannot be directed towards other things until his motive is satisfied. So our motive and needs, it direct our perception, or it influences our perception. The last one is the cognitive style. People are said to differ in the ways they characteristically process the information. Every individual will have his or her own way of understanding the situation. It is said that people who are flexible have good attentions and they are less affected by the inferring influences and to be less dominated by internal needs and motives than the people at a constricted end. Error in perception. Sometimes like we misperceive or make wrong perceptions. So especially the two points that we misinterpret or we misperceive or wrong perception. The first one is the illusion. What is illusion? Illusion is the misperception or misinterpretation of an individual that comes from a real object. For example, the perception of a rope in the darkness as a snake. It occurs because of confusion, eye movement, emotion, contrast perception, habits, defects, of the sense organs and a tendency towards the whole. Another example, the voice of unknown person is mistaken as a friend's voice, or as person standing at a distance who is not known may be perceived as a known person. Second is hallucination. Sometimes like we come across instances where the individuals perceived some stimulus, even when it is not present. This phenomenon is known as hallucination. In a very simple word, hallucinations are sensory experience that appears real but are created by our mind. They can affect all 5 of our senses. For example, we hear a voice that no one else in the room, or can see an image that was not real. Difference between sensation and perception. Sensation is normal initial mental process, whereas perception is a complex and refined mental activities. Sensation begins with stimulus, whereas perceptions begins with some object or fringe of meaning. Sensation is based on external stimuli conditions, whereas perception is associated with the internal mental conditions. There is a passivity in sensation. There is activity in perception. The basis of sensation is mental analysis, whereas the process of perception linked with actual experience. Conception. Conception can be defined as classification of stimuli having common characteristic. In other words, in the process of concept formation, one is in a position to make rational classification on the basis of own characteristic. Conceptions are vital to the individual because they provide the basis for most of our symbolic behavior. Our language is nothing but a configuration of symbols, which we have learned to associate with the different social concepts. In psychology, spontaneous conceptions refers to conceptions about the world that we form without any formal education. Often these are connected with physics. They may be wrong concept, like heavier objects fall faster or bigger objects are heavier. Beckett thinks they are made by the introspection. Vygotsky believes they may help the learning of scientific concepts more than having no conceptions about one event. Concepts are vital to the individuals because they provide the basis for most of our symbolic behavior. Our language is nothing but a configuration of symbols which we have learned to associate with the different social concepts. Development of concepts. Development of the from concept. It has been found that children show superiority in concept formation to other primates. This superiority can be attributed to their skill at language and ability at verbal generalizations. Kellerman designed an experimentation to investigate the relative ability of chimpanzee and 2-year-old children in a discrimination of a triangular form. Besides their superiority in discrimination, these children exhibit definite symbolic behavior in solving the problem situations. By means of gesture and verbal behavior, children could formulate the nature of their problems as well as clear instructions for solving the problems when no such instructions were given by the experimenter. Second, development of color concept. Color discriminations comes earlier than the naming, thus indicating that the verbal symbols are learned later than the color concepts, which develop earlier. Smith studied the age trends in color discrimination. The result of his experience indicate a steady increase in the discrimination of color situations, hue and lightness with age of the individuals. This increased discrimination continued till 20 to 30 years of age. Third, development of space, distance, and positioning concept. Concepts of space, distance, and position is another important development that an individual goes through it. It involves space orientation, understanding of the relative position and distance. Our adjustment to our environment and our surrounding and everyday environment depends upon the normal development of space concept. Size and magnitude concept. Psychologists have studied magnitude of the children by presenting an object of different size and ask them to discriminate the largest from the smallest and the middle. As children at the age of 6 months gave evidence that they could estimate the size of an object independently of its distance from the observer. The last point is the number and time concept. In the development of the number concept, psychologists have 3 distinct stages. At the first stage, the subject can discriminate the number. At the second stage, he can match numbers. And at the third stage, he can match groups of different numbers. So in short, concepts is a generalized idea about persons, things, and events. It stands for a general class rather than for particular individuals. Again, concepts implies mental disposition or mental image expressed in common names and help us in recognizing and naming objects. That's the end of the unit 5. Our next class will discuss the different chapter. Thank you.